Question number 1. Consider the following statement with respect to 12th 5-year plan. 11th 5-year plan main points. Its duration was from 2007 to 2012 under the leadership of Manmohan Singh. It was prepared by the C. Rangarajan. Its main theme was rapid and more inclusive growth. It achieved a growth rate of 8% against the target of 9% growth. 12th 5-year plan. Its duration is from 2012 to 2017 under leadership of Manmohan Singh. Its main theme is faster, more inclusive and sustainable growth. Its growth rate target was 8%. Question number 2. Consider the following statement with respect to role and objectives of zonal council. The main objectives of setting up of zonal council are as under: bringing out national integration, arresting the growth of acute state consciousness, regionalism, linguism, and particularistic tendencies, enabling the center and the state to cooperate and exchange ideas and experiences, establishing a climate of cooperation among the states for successful and speedy execution of development projects. Question number 3. In the context of which of the following do you find sometimes the term limitation of benefits grandfathering clause in the news? India and Mauritius signed the amendment to the 1983 Double Taxation Avoidance Convention DTAC on May 10, 2016 and was notified by India on August 18, 2016. It allows India to tax capital gains on investment routed through the island nation, will tackle round tripping of funds and curb tax evasion. Under the amended treaty, India will impose capital gains tax at 50% of the prevailing domestic rate for 2 years beginning April 1, 2017. Full rate will apply from April 1, 2019 under the limitation of benefits clause. This concessional rate would apply to a Mauritius resident company that can prove that it has a total expenditure of at least 27 lakh in the African island nation and is not a shell company with just a post office address. The grandfathering clause of the amendment process of to exempt the investment made until March 31st, 2017 from such taxation. Question number 4. Which one of the following group of items is included in India Foreign Exchange Reserve? India Foreign Exchange Reserve include foreign currency deposits, bonds, gold reserve, special drawing rights and IMF reserve position. Foreign exchange reserves are an important part of the international investment position of a country. Question number 5. Consider the following statement regarding Bank Ombudsman Scheme. RBI's Bank Ombudsman Scheme cover all type of banks. The Ombudsman is a senior official appointed by RBI. Question number 6. The surplus maintained by RBI has two components. They are part of net profit every year, surplus already accumulated over the years. Question number 7. Consider the following statement regarding recommendations on economic capital framework. Usha Thorat Committee 2004. RBI should maintain 18% of its total asset as reserve. Malagam Committee 2014 RBI should transfer all entire net profits annually to RBI. Question number 8. Consider the following statement. The Lorentz curve is often accompanied by a straight diagonal line with a slope of 1, which represents perfect equality in income or wealth distribution. The Lorentz curve lies beneath it, showing the actual distribution. The area between the straight line and the curved line expressed in as a ratio of the area under straight line in the Gini coefficient, a measurement of inequality. The non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment is the specific level of unemployment that is evident in an economy that does not cause inflation to increase. In other words, if unemployment is at the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment level, inflation is constant. Nairu often represents the equilibrium between the state of the economy and the labour market. In 1958, New Zealand born economist William Philip wrote a paper titled The Relation Between Unemployment and the Rate of Money Wage Rates in the United Kingdom. In his paper, Phillips described the supposed inverse relationship between unemployment levels and the rate of inflation. This relationship was referred to as the Philip curve. However, during the severe recession of 1974 to 75, inflation and unemployment rates both reached historic level and people began to doubt the theoretical basis of the Philip curve. Question number 9. Which among the following is a part of current account transaction of balance of payment sheet? The current account on the balance of payment measures the inflow and outflow of goods, service, investment, income, and transfer payment. The main component of the current account are trade in goods, visible balance, trade in services, invisible balance, example, insurance and service, investment incomes, example, dividends, interest, and migrant remittance from abroad, net transfer, example, international aid. Question number 10. Which among the following best defines the term twin deficit? The twin deficit or double deficit occurs when a nation has both a current account deficit and a budget deficit. This means the country's economy is importing more than it is exporting, and the country's government is spending more money than it is generating. Question number 11. Which of the following theories from the basis form the basis of international trade? Absolute cost difference was given by Adam Smith. Adam Smith said that trade between two nations is based on absolute advantage. When one nation is more efficient than other in the production of one commodity but is less efficient than other in producing a second commodity, but then both the nations can gain by each specializing in the production of its absolute advantage and exchanging part of its output with the other nation for the commodity of its absolute disadvantage. Comparative cost difference was propounded by David Ricardo, and opportunity cost theory explains that if a country can produce either commodity X or Y, the opportunity cost of commodity X is the amount of the other commodity Y that must be given up in order to get one additional unit of commodity X. Two Swedish economists, Eli Heckscher and Bertil Ohlin, gave the model of international trade. Question number 12. Consider the following with respect to globalization. Globalization. The process of globalization has always been used in economic terms, though it has always taken the political and cultural dimensions. Globalization is generally termed as an increase in economic integration among nations. The concept was popularized by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, that is OECD, in the mid 1980s. In its earlier deliberalization, the organization had defined globalization in a very narrow and business like sense. Any cross border investment by an OECD, that is Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development company, outside its country of origin for its benefit is globalization. The official meaning of globalization for the World Trade Organization is movement of the economies of the world towards unrestricted cross-border movement of goods and services, capital and the labor force. Question number 13. Consider the following with respect to share swap ratio. It is determined by valuing the target company after looking into metrics such as its revenues and profits as well as its market price. If the target company is listed, the market value of its share is often a key consideration to arrive at the right price to be paid. Question number 14. Consider the following with respect to free trade agreement. Free trade agreements are arrangements between two or more countries or trading blocs that primarily agree to reduce or eliminate custom tariffs and non-tariff barrier on substantial trade between them. FTAs normally cover trade in goods such as agricultural or industrial products or trade in services such as banking, construction and trading, etc. FTAs can also cover other areas such as intellectual property rights, investment, government procurements and competition policy, etc. Question number 15. Consider the following with respect to import substitution based on tariffs. Tariffs, it is the tax on imported goods. It makes imported goods more expensive and discourage their use. Question number 16. Consider the following statement with respect to re- reserve position. Reserve position is the International Monetary Fund. A reserve tranche position implies a portion of the required quota of currency each member country must provide to the International Monetary Fund that can be utilized for its own purpose. The reserve tranche is basically an emergency account that IMF members can access at any time without agreeing to condition or paying a service fee. Question number 17. Consider the following with respect to foreign exchange market. The foreign exchange market, also known as forex, FX, and the currency market, is an over the counter OTC global marketplace that determines the exchange rate of currencies around the world. Participants are able to buy, sell, exchange, and speculate on currencies. Question number 18. Consider the following with respect to SWIFT, SWIFT. Messages sent by Shift's customers are authenticated using its specialized security and identification technology. Its core role is to provide a secure transmission channel so that Bank A knows that its message to Bank B goes to Bank C and no one else. Bank B in turn knows that Bank A and no one other Bank A sent, read, or altered the message en route. Banks need to have checks in place before actual sending messages. Question number 19. Consider the following with respect to base erosion and profit shifting. Base erosion profit shifting is a tax avoidance strategy used by multinational companies wherein profit are shifted from jurisdictions that have high tax such as the United States and many Western European countries to jurisdictions that have low or no tax, so-called tax havens. The term is used in the project headed by OECD. The base erosion of profit shifting. The base erosion and profit shifting project, a joint initiative between G20 countries and the OECD, and works towards the development of a coherent global taxation system which addresses BEPS concern, that is base erosion and profit shifting concern. Project headed by OECD's Center for Tax Policy and Administration to to deal to deal with the tax avoidance strategy used by multinational companies. The main purpose of such initiative is to address the gaps in the current international tax rules relating to arrangements that receive no or low taxation by shifting profits away from the jurisdiction where the activities creating profits takes place. Question number 20. Consider the following with respect to tax haven. Tax haven do not typically require residency or business presence for individual or businesses to benefit from their tax policies. In some cases, international locations may also be identified as tax havens if they have special tax law. For example, in United States, Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming requires no state income tax. Question number 21. Consider the following statements regarding Soft currency. It is also known as weak currency due to its unstable nature. Such currencies mostly exist in developing countries with relatively unstable government. Soft currencies causes high volatility in exchange rates as well, making them undesirable for foreign exchange dealers. These currencies are the least preferred for international trade or holding reserve. Example, Zimbabwean dollar is a classic example of soft currency. Question number 22. Consider the following with respect to types of tariffs. A progressive tax is based on taxpayers' ability to pay. It imposes a lower tax rate on low income earners than on those with a higher income. A progressive tax imposes a higher percentage rate on taxpayers who have higher incomes. The US income tax system is an example. Question number 23. Consider the following regarding CASA. Since interest rates are lower than the term deposit, CASA is a cheaper source of funds for bank. For these reasons, financial experts also look at CASA ratio to understand a bank's financial health, as a same reflect the bank's capacity to raise money with lower borrowing cost. Question number 24. Consider the following statements with respect to 8th 5-year plan. 8th Five-Year Plan. Its duration from 1992 to 1997 under the leadership of P.V. Narasimha Rao. In this plan, the top priority was given to the development of human resource, that is employment, education, public health. During this plan, Narasimha Rao government launched the new economic policy of India. Some of the main economic outcome during the 8th plan period were rapid economic growth, highest annual growth rates so far 6.8%, high growth of agriculture and elite sector and manufacturing sector, growth in export and imports, improvement in trade and current account deficit. The high growth rate was achieved even though the share of the public sector in total investment had declined considerably to about 34%. This plan was successful and got an annual growth rate of 6.8% against the target 5.6%. Question number 25. Consider the following statement with respect to Niti Aayog composition. Niti Aayog will comprise of the following. The Prime Minister of India is the chairperson. Governing Council consists of the Chief Minister of all the states and Lieutenant Governors of Union Territories in India. Regional councils will be created to address particular issues and possibilities affecting more than one state. These will be formed for a fixed term. It will be summoned by the Prime Minister. It will consist of Chief Minister of States and Lieutenant Governors of Union Territories. These will be chaired by Chairperson of the Niti Aayog or his nominees. Question number 26. Consider the following statement with respect to third 5-year plan. Third 5-year plan. It was made for the duration of 1961 to 1966 under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. This plan is also called Gadgil Yojana after the Deputy Chairman of Planning Commission D.R. Gadgil. The main target of this plan was to make the economy independent. The stress was laid on agriculture and the improvement in the production of wheat. During the execution of this plan, India was engaged in two wars, the Sino Indian War of 1962 and the Indo Pakistan War of 1965. These wars exposed the weakness in our economy and shifted the focus to the defense industry, the Indian army, and the stabilization of the price. India witnessed inflation. The plan was a flop due to wars and drought. The target growth was 5.6%, while the achieved growth was 2.4%. Question number 27. The Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 requires the central government to entrust the Reserve Bank with all its money remittance, exchange, and banking transaction in India, management of its public debt. Si- all the options are correct. Since its inception, the Reserve Bank of India has undertaken the traditional central banking function of managing the government banking transaction. The Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 requires the central government to entrust the Reserve Bank with all its money remittance, exchange, and banking transaction in India and the management of its public debt. Question number 28. Consider the following with respect to anti-profiteering. The government has decided to create an anti-profiteering authority during the transition period. A five-member national anti-profiteering authority headed by a secretary-level officer was proposed under the anti-profiteering rules issued by the Central Board of Excise and Customs. Question number 29. Consider the following with respect to zero-based budget. The Government of India presented zero based budgeting in 1987-88. It involves fresh evaluation of expenditure in the government budgeting, assuming it as a new item. Question number 30. Consider the following statement with respect to call money market. Bank resort to these types of loan to fill the asset liability mismatch, complete with the statutory CRR and SLR requirements and to meet the sudden demand of funds. RBI banks, primary dealers, etc. are the participants of the call money market. Demand and supply of liquidity affect the call money rate. A tight liquidity condition leads to a rise in call money rate and vice versa. Question number 31. Consider the following with respect to Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. Insolvency is a situation where the individual or companies are unable to repay their outstanding debt. Bankruptcy, on the other hand, is a situation whereby a court of competition jurisdiction has declared a person or other entity insolvent, having passed appropriate orders to resolve it and protect the right of the creditors. It is a legal declaration of one's ability to pay off debts. Question number 32. Consider the following with respect to function and role of CCI. Competition Commission of India's function of role of CCI to eliminate practices having adverse effect on competition, promote and sustain competition, protect the interest of consumers and ensure freedom of trade in the market of India, to give opinion on competition issues on a reference received from a statutory authority established under any law and to undertake competition advocacy, create public awareness and impart training on competition issues. The Competition Commission is India's competition regulator and an antitrust watchdog for smaller organizations that are unable to defend themselves against large corporations. CCI has the authority to notify organizations that sell to India if it feels they may be negatively influence competition in India's domestic market. The Competition Act guarantees that no enterprise abuse their dominant position in the market through the control of supply, manipulating purchase price, or adopting practices that deny market access to other competing firms. A foreign company seeking entry into India through an acquisition or merger will have to abide by the country's competition law. Question number 33. Whether India is experiencing inclusive growth in the true sense can be assessed by looking at. Inclusive growth is a concept that advances equitable opportunities for economic participants during economic growth with benefits incurred by every section of society. The definition of inclusive growth implies direct links between the macroeconomics and microeconomics determinants of the economy and economic growth. Hence, in order to measure the accessibility of true sense of economic growth, India has to look the state by state human development profile as well various flagship programs of social inclusion, especially for marginalized social groups like SC, ST, etc. Question number 34. Which of the following measures should be taken when an economy is going through inflationary pressure? Fiscal policy is what the government employs to influence and balance the economy. Tries using taxes and spending to accomplish this. Fiscal policy tries to indulge the economy in different ways through either expansionary or contractionary policy, which tried to either increase economic growth through taxes and spending or slow economic growth to cutbacks respectively. In case of inflationary pressure, there are a variety of tools to control inflation, including monetary policy. Higher interest rate reduce demand in the economy, leading to lower economic growth and lower inflation. Control of money supply. Monetarists argue there is a close link between money supply and inflation. Therefore, controlling money supply can control inflation. Supply side policies. Policies to increase the competitiveness and efficiency of the economy, putting downward pressure on long term cost. Fiscal policy. A higher rate of income tax could reduce spending, demand, and inflationary pressure. Wage control. Trying to control wage could, in theory, help in reduce inflationary pressure. However, apart from the 1970s, it has been rarely used. Question number 35. Which of the following statements are correct? The Nifty 50 is a benchmark Indian stock market index that represents the weight average of 50 of the largest Indian company listed on the National Stock Exchange. It is one of the two main stock indices used in India, the other being BSE Sensex. Nifty is governed and regulated by the Securities and Exchange Board of India. Nifty does not trade in mutual fund. Question number 36. In recent plans, certain words phrases were used in the title of the plan along with growth. They are 12th 5-year plan duration was from 2012 to 17. Its main theme was faster, more inclusive, and its growth rate target was 8%. Question number 37. Which of the following statement about India's unorganized sector are true? The informal sector is an unorganized one which is neither taxed nor monitored by any form of government. The Economic Survey of 2018-19 released in July 2019 says almost 93% of the total workforce is informal. Job security is not better in unorganized sector as compared to organized sector. They are usually not organized into a union and they are also employed for a limited number of days. Question number 38. Consider the following statement regarding RRB. As per guidelines of Reserve Bank of India (RBI), the RRBs have to provide 70% of their total credit under priority sector lending, that is PSL. RRB are primarily catering to the credit and banking requirement of agriculture sector and rural areas. RRBs also provide leading to micro, small enterprise and small entrepreneurs in rural areas. Question number 39. Which of the following are reasonable for the decrease of per capita holding of cultivated land in India? Rapid rate of increase of population and practice of dividing land equally among the highest are responsible for the decrease in per capita holding of cultivated land in India. Question number 40. Consider the following statement regarding General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade was adopted in 1947 by 23 countries to establish a free and fair international trading regime among member countries based on dismantling of the trade barriers. It came to existence in 1948 and India was its founding member. Question number 41. Which one of the following factor is not considered in determining the minimum support price of India? Answer is cost of living index. The minimum support price of are announced by Government of India at the beginning of sowing season for certain crop on the basis of recommendation of the Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices. The Commission takes into account the following factors: cost of production, change changes in input price, input output price parity, trends in market price, demand and supply, intercrop price parity, effect on industrial cost structure, effect on cost of living, effect on general price level, international price situation, parity between price paid and price received by the farmers, effect on issue price and implication for subsidy. Cost of living index is not used for the calculation of MSP. Question number 42. Which of the following statement with regard to Make in India initiative are correct? The Make in India initiative was launched by Prime Minister in September 2014 as a part of a wider set of nation building initiatives. The main objective of Make in India initiative is to transform India into a global design and manufacturing hub. Hence, question number 43. Consider the following with respect to Hindu rate of growth. The Hindu rate of growth is a term referring to a low annual growth rate of the economy of India before the economic reform of 1991, which stagnated around 3.5% from 1950s to 1980s, while per capita income growth averaged around 1.3%. The term contrasts with South Korea's miracle on the Han River and the Taiwan miracle, while these Asian tigers had similar income level as India in the 1950s. Exponential economic growth since then has turned them into developed countries today. The Indian economy of this period was characterized as dirigism. The economy of India accelerated and has grown at the rate of around 6 to 9% since the economic liberalization began in the 1960s. Question number 44. Consider the following with respect to IBC 2016. Establishment of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India to exercise regulatory oversight over insolvency professionals, insolvency professional agencies, and informative utilities. Insolvency professionals handle the commercial aspect of insolvency resolution process. Insolvency professional agency develop professional standards, code of ethics, and be first level regulator for insolvency professional members, leading to development of an competitive industry for such professional. Information utilities collect, collate, authenticate, and disseminate financial information to be used in insolvency, liquidation, and bankruptcy proceeding, enabling provisional to deal with cross-border insolvency. Question number 45. According to Food and Agriculture Organization, food security pillars are availability, affordability, absorption, stability. According to Food and Agriculture Organization, food security has basically four pillars. Availability: food should be available in sufficient quantity at all times and at all places. Affordability: food should be affordable, that is, people should have economic access to buy food. Absorption: food should be safe and nutritious that body can absorb for a healthy life. And finally, stability: food system should be reasonably stable, as a high volatility of food system impact adversely not only the poor but also endangers the stability of the political and social system. Question number 46. Consider the following statement with respect to negotiable warehouse receipt system. negotiable warehouse receipt system. It should be taken up on priority and scaled up quickly. Under this system, farmers can deposit their produce to a registered warehouse and get say 80% advance from bank against their produce valued at MSP. They can sell later when they feel prices are good for them. They will bring back the private sector, reduce massively and cost of storage to the government and be more compatible with a market economy. Government through FCI and Warehouse Development Regularity Authority WDRA can encourage building of these warehouse with better technology and keep an online track of grain stock with them on daily weekly basis. In due course, government can explore whether this system can be used to compensate the farmers in case of market price falling below MSP without physically handling large quantities of grain. Question number 47. Consider the following statement with respect to National Food Security Act 2017 NFSA. National Food Security Act. The enactment of National Food Security Act 2013 on July 5, 2013 marks a paradigm shift in the approach to food security from welfare to a rights-based approach. The act legally entitled up to 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population to receive subsidized food grains under targeted public distribution system. About two-thirds of the population. Therefore, it covers under the Act to receive highly subsidized food grains. The National Food Security Act 2013 is being implemented in all the states and UTs on an all India basis. Out of maximum coverage of 81.35 crore, around 80 crore persons have been covered under NFSA at present for receiving high subsidized food grains. The authentication of beneficiaries by states UTs is a continuous process which involves exclusion of ineligible fake duplicate ration cards and also exclusion on account of death, migration, etc., and inclusion on account of birth, as also be of genuine left out households. Question number 48. Consider the following statements with respect to Commission for Agricultural Cost and Price. Commission for Agricultural Cost and Price was created in 1965 to recommend rem- remunerative price to farmers. The CACP is an attached office of the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. The Commission for Agricultural Cost and Price since 1885, earlier named as Agricultural Price Commission, came into existence in January 1965. Question number 14. Consider the following with respect to ways and means advances. Ways and means advances. When the WMA limit is crossed, the government takes resource to overdraft which are not allowed beyond 10 consecutive working days. The interest rates on overdraft should be 2% more than the repo rate. Question number 50. Consider the following with respect to long-term repo operations. New policy tool used by the RBI to inject more liquidity into the economy, similar to the terms repo but with a longer maturity period of 1 year and 3 years. Though the LTRO, that is long term repo operation, the RBI seek to inject long term liquidity into the economy at the lower interest rates. Question number 51. Consider the following with respect to non-performing assets. Balance sheet syndrome of Indian characteristics, that is both the banks and the corporate sector having stressed balance sheet and cause halting of the investment led development process. Second point, NPAs, that is non-performing assets, relate cases about more pressure to already pending cases with the judiciary Both are correct. Con- Question number 52. Consider the following with respect to uh, domestic systemically important banks. First point, RBI has to disclose names of banks designated as DSBI. This statement is correct. Question number 53. Consider the following with respect to significance of Project Shakti. The recommendation offering a transparent market-based solution that are fully compliant with RBI regulation. It focuses on asset turnaround to ensure job protection and creation. The resolution process could help bringing a credible long-term eternal capital. This could limit a burden on the domestic banking sector. It could also ensure robust governance and credit architecture and prevent any buildup of NPAs in the future. Question number 54. Consider the following with respect to agricultural and processed food products Export Development Authority. APEDA is a non-trading statutory body established by the Government of India under the Agricultural and Processed Food Product Export Development Authority Act passed by the Parliament in December 1985. APEDA has a marked in the presence in almost all agro-potential states of India and has been providing service to the agri-export community through its head office in New Delhi, 5 regional offices and 13 virtual offices. In 2017, APEDA launched a mobile app Farmer Connect to allow farmers to apply online to facilitate their farm registration, tracking the status of application and approvals by state government and lab sampling by authorized laboratories. Question number 55. Consider the following with respect to payment banks. Required First point, required to invest a minimum 25% of its demand deposit balances in statutory liquidity ratio, that is SLR, eligible government securities bar treasury bill with maturity up to 1 year. This statement is correct. This statement is incorrect. Required to invest a minimum 75% of its demand deposit balance in SLR eligible government securities treasury bills with maturity up to 1 year. Need to hold maximum 25% in current and time or fixed deposit with other scheduled commercial banks for operational purposes and liquidity management. Question number 56. Financial Inclusion Index is launched by Ministry of Finance. The single composite index gives a snapshot of level of financial inclusion that would guide macro policy perspective. Question number 57. Consider the following statement regarding headline inflation. Headline inflation is a raw inflation figure reported through the Consumer Price Index that is released by CSO. The headline figure is not adjusted for seasonality or for the often volatile element. Question number 58. Consider the following with respect to Directorate General of Foreign Trade DGFT. Before 1991, the DGFT was known as Chief Controller of Import and Export. The organization formulates guidelines for Indians' export and import. Since the liberalization, the DGFT is no longer the controller, rather, it is a facilitator in matters of foreign trade. There was a policy shift from control or prohibition to facilitate promotion of foreign trade. The office works in tandem with other similar organizations such as Commissionerate, DRI Authority, the Central Excise Authority, and the Enforcement Directorate. The DGFT is the licensing authority for export-import business in India. DGFT's office offer facilitation to exporters in connection with developments in international trade such as WTO agreements, rules of origin, and anti dumping issues, etc., to aid them in their export and import decision in an international dynamic environment. The Directorate is headquartered in New Delhi with 38 regional offices all over the country. Question number 59. Consider the following with respect to marginal standing facility MSF. First point, the MSF was introduced by RBI in its monetary policy for 2011-12. Second point, the bank has to give higher interest rate to the RBI. Both the statements are correct. Question number 60. Consider the following with respect to negative interest rate policy. Under the negative interest rate policy, the bank would be required to pay interest to the central bank if they park their surplus reserve. This encourages the bank to provide loans to the borrowers at cheaper rates instead of parking their surplus reserve with the central bank. This policy is usually followed by developed economies such as Japan, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland. Question number 61. Consider the following with respect to foreign portfolio investment. Foreign portfolio investment consists of security and other financial assets passively held by foreign investors. It does not provide the investor with direct ownership of financial asset and is relatively liquid depending on the volatility of the market. Question number 62. Consider the following with respect to real effective exchange rate. Countries with a large trading relationship would typically have the largest weighting in their comparative index, while countries with small trading relationship would have smaller weightings in the basket of currencies. Respect to real effective exchange rates is used to evaluate how a currency is fluctuating against many others at once and is also used in international trade assessment. Question number 63. Consider the following with respect to European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. India has become the 69th shareholder of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. This has a lot of potential for Indian companies as it will open up opportunities for them in places such as Central Asia, Turkey, and Georgia. India will not become a country of operation, it has just become a member. It is up to the Indian government to decide on that and take it up with the other shareholders. But as a member, there is much that Indian companies can do, especially in a region such as Central Asia and Turkey. These are markets that India has just begun to penetrate. There is a huge opportunities for Indians to go there. Question number 64. Consider the following with respect to special economic zone. The act came the act came into force along with the CEZ rules in 2006. However, CEZs were operational in India from 2002 to 2006 under the foreign trade policy. And precursor of SEZs, the export processing zone, were set up in India well before. The first EPZ came up in Kandla in 1965 to promote export. This was the first EPZ not only in India but in all of Asia as well. SEZ means Special Economic Zone. EPZ means Export Processing Zone. Question number 65. Consider the following with respect to direct tax. Direct tax are the one that fall directly on individuals and corporations. Second point, a direct tax cannot be shifted to other individuals or entirely. Third point, the individual or organization upon which the tax is levied is responsible for the fulfillment of the tax payment. All the options are correct. Question number 66. Consider the following with respect to GST Council. It is a constitutional body, Article 279A, for making recommendations to the union and state government on issues related to goods and service taxes. It is considered as a federal body where both the center and the state get due representation. Question number 67. Consider the following with respect to India's commitment towards the reducing carbon emission. What are India's commitment to tackle climate change? India has committed to 40% of electricity capacity being from non-fossil fuel by 2030. India has also committed lowering the ratio of emission of GDP by one third of from 2005 levels. It has agreed to enhance its forest cover, which will absorb 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide by 2030. Question number 68. Consider the following statement regarding methods for regulation of monetary policy. The methodology can be classified into two categories: quantitative credit control methods. These are the instrument of monetary policy that affect overall supply of money or credit in the economy. Qualitative credit control methods. These are those tools through which the central bank not only controls the value of loans but also the purpose for which these loans are assigned by the commercial banks. Question number 69. Consider the following with respect to expansionary policy in economy. An expansionary monetary policy is required when an economy goes through a phase of recession accompanied by low level of growth, high level of unemployment, but risk associated with EMP is inflation. Question number 70. Consider the following statement regarding liberalized remittance scheme. Liberalized remittance scheme. This is the scheme of Reserve Bank of India introduced in the year 2004. Under the scheme, the resident individual, including minors, are allowed to freely remit up to USD 2,50,000 per financial year, that is from April to March, for any permissible current or capital account transaction or a combination of both. Not eligible. The scheme is not available to corporations, partnership firm, Hindu undivided family, trust, etc. Though there are no restrictions on the frequency of remittance under LRS, once a remittance is made for an amount up to USD 2,50,000 during the financial year, a resident individual would not be eligible to make any further remittance under this scheme. Question number 71. Consider the following with respect to Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Committees on the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act in the year 2016. In the year 2016, the NK Singh Committee was set up by the government for reviewing the FRBM Act. The task was to review the performance of the FRBM Act and suggest the necessary changes to the provision of the Act. The recommendations of the committee read that the government must target a fiscal deficit of 3% of the GDP in years up to March 31, 2020, subsequently cut it to 2.8% in 22-21 and 2.5% by 2023. Question number 72. Consider the following with respect to tax exemption in startup scheme. First point, due to their high risk nature, startups are not able to attract investment in their initial stage. This statement is correct. Question number 73. Plan holiday or annual plans are 3 successive years come after third 5-year plan. Fourth plan period could not start from 1966 due to various economic troubles and difficulties due to war front with China. Hence, after third 5-year plan, there was a 3 annual plans from the year 66 to 69. Question number 74. Consider the following statement regarding Coal India Limited. Coal India Limited is an Indian state-owned coal mining and refinery company headquartered in Kolkata, West Bengal. It is the largest coal producing company in the world and a Maharashtrian PSU. Coal India operates through 81 mining areas in 8 states in India. Question number 75. Which of the following statements correct regarding Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme? MP Lads is a government scheme launched on 23rd December 1993. This central sector scheme was developed as an initiative to enable the parliament members to recommend development works in their constituency based on locally felt needs. The implementing agency should be identified by the district authority. The implementing agency should have the capability to execute the eligible work quantitatively, timely, and satisfactorily. Nominated members of the parliament can recommend works for implementation anywhere in the country. The scheme is fully funded by Government of India. The annual entitlement per MP is rupees 5 crore. Question number 76. There are primarily two types of municipal bonds in India, categorized as per their usage. Consider the following statement. First one, general obligation bonds. These are issued to raise finance for general projects such as improving the infrastructure of the region. Repayment of bonds along with interest is processed through revenue degeneration from the revenue processed through revenue generated from different projects and taxes. Second point, revenue bonds. These are issued to raise finance for specific projects such as construction of a particular building. Repayment of such bonds, principal or and accrued interest shall be paid through revenues explicitly generated from the declared projects. Question number 77. Consider the following with respect to capital market. Capital market helps channelize surplus fund from savers to institutions which are then invest them into productive use. Generally, these market trade mostly in long-term securities. Question 78. Consider the following statement with respect to World Bank Group and India. MIGA performance standard are environmental and social standard which help to structure and implement sustainable projects. For Indian market, one of the options in the breach of contract insurance which MIGA would offer to investors in case of government does not perform its obligation under the contract agreement, the MIGA can come and cover the risk of investment. Question number 17. Consider the following statement regarding Central Board of Directors. It is the highest Central Board of Directors (RBI). It is the highest decision-making body residing inside the RBI. The power of general superintendents and direction of the affairs and business of the RBI is entrusted to the Central Board under RBI Act 1934. The board is appointed by Government of India in keeping with RBI Act. It consists of maximum of 21 members who are appointed and nominated for a period of 4 years. Question number 80. Consider the following with respect to Mission Indradhanush and capitalization. Capitalization. As of now, the PSBs are adequately capitalized and meeting all the Basel III and RBI norms. However, the Government of India wants to adequately capitalize all the banks to keep a safe buffer over and above the minimum norms of Basel III infusion of 25,000 crore rupees of capital into debt-laden banks in this fiscal is phased manner. Out of these, 20,000 crore rupees would be injected in August 2015. Question number 81. Consider the following with respect to regulatory sandbox policy. Regulatory sandbox policy generally refers to live testing of new product or service in a controlled tax regulatory environment for which regulator may extend their regulatory relaxation for the limited purpose for the tax testing. RBI sandbox policy to develop testing platform to test innovation by the fintech companies. As part of this policy, the regulator provides the appropriate regulatory support by relaxing specific legal and regulatory requirement for specified time duration. The idea behind the sandbox policy is to enable them to test their new product without any regulatory hassle. Question number 82. Consider following with respect to economic capital framework. Capital that the RBI requires to hold a counter against unforeseen risk or events or losses in the future is called economic capital and is defined under economic capital framework. Economic capital framework is the methodology for determining the appropriate level of risk provision to capital that is to be made under section 47 of the Reserve Bank of India Act. Question number 83. Type of institution covered under PCA framework are commercial bank. Type of institution covered the PCA framework is applicable only to commercial bank. It is not applicable to cooperative banks, non-bank financial companies, financial management institution. Question number 84. Consider the following with respect to marginal cost of lending rate. Base rate. Loan taken between June 2010 to April 2016 from the banks were on base rate. During this period, base rate was the minimum interest rate at which commercial bank could lend to customer. The bank stopped lending on base rate from April 2016. Base rate is calculated on three parameters: the cost of fund, unallocated cost of resources, and return on net worth. Hence, the rate dependent on the individual bank and they changed it whenever their cost of funds and other parameters changed. Marginal cost of lending rate. It came into effect in April 2016. It is a benchmark lending rate for floating rate loan. This is a minimum interest rate at which commercial bank can lend. Question number 85. Consider the following with respect to currency appreciation. The value of currency is not measured in absolute terms. It is always measured relative to the currency being measured against it. Countries use currency's appreciation as a strategic tool to boost their economic prospects. Question number 86. Consider the following with respect to partial convertibility after 1991. Partial convertibility after 1991. Partial convertibility of Indian rupee was in operation till 1993 under the liberalized exchange rate management system. In this system, 40% of the exchange rate was to be converted on the basis of official exchange rate and the remaining 60% was based on the market determined exchange rate. Question number 87. Consider the value with respect to pegged regime in India. Pegged regime, that is 1971 to 1992. The value of Indian rupee was pegged to US dollar 1971 to 1991 and the pound sterling. After the breakdown of Bretton Woods system and the collapse of pound sterling, the value of Indian rupees was pegged on the basis of weight, the average basket of currencies of the major trading partners of India. RBI determined the exchange rate within the band of plus minus 5% of the weighted average. Question number 88. Which of the following clearly describe stagflation? Stagflation is a combination of stagnant economic growth, high unemployment, and high inflation. Question number 89. Consider the following with respect to hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is a term to describe rapid, excessive, and out of control general price increase in an economy with inflation is a measure of the pace of rising prices of goods and services. Hyperinflation is rapidly raising inflation, typically measuring more than 50% per month. Question number 90. GST is lived on. Applicability of GST. GST is applicable on the supply of goods and services. GST not lived initially on petroleum, crude, high speed diesel, motor, spirit or petrol, natural gas, aviation, turbine fuel, alcoholic liquor for human consumption in exempted from is exempted from GST. Tobacco and tobacco products will be subjected to GST. The center may apply excise duty on tobacco. Question number 91. Consider the following statement. According to Reserve Bank of India, the Indian denomination coin acceptable for transaction is 50 paisa. Coins below 50 paisa is not a legal tender of money. Question number 92. Consider the following. Which of the following are included in the category of direct tax in India? The type of tax where the impact and the incidence fall under the same category can be defined as the direct tax. The tax is paid directly by the organization or an individually to the entity that has imposed the payment. The tax must be paid directly to the government and cannot be paid to anyone else. The various types of direct tax that are imposed in India are income tax, wealth tax, estate tax, inheritance tax, corporate tax, capital gain tax. Question number 93. Consider the following regarding money multiplier. Money multiplier shows the mechanism by which reserve money creates money supply in the economy. It is again dependent on two variables, namely currency deposit ratio and reserve deposit ratio. Question number 94. Consider the following statement with respect to reserve repo rate. Reserve repo is the rate at which central bank borrows from the market. This is called the reverse repo, as it is the reverse of repo operation. Reverse repo rate at present is 50 base points, that is 0.5% lower than the repo rate. Repo and reverse repo repo rates are also referred as the policy rates and often used by the central banks, that is RBI, to send signal to the financial system to adjust their leading and borrowing operation. Question number 95. Consider the following with respect to foreign exchange swaps. Under the swap, RBI buys dollar from the financial institutions such as banks in order to inject rupee into the economy. At the later date, RBI would be selling the same amount of dollars to the financial institution in order to suck out the rupee which was earlier injected. Thus, it essentially work as a swap mechanism wherein the dollar with the banks should be swapped with Indian rupee for a specified duration. Question number 96. Consider the following statement with respect to disadvantage of the cash transfer instead of PST. Cash transfer, cash can be used by non-food items, may expose recipient to price volatility and inflation. There is a poor access to banks and post office in some areas. Question number 97. Which of the following is correct in order of decreasing liquidity? The gradation of decreasing of liquidity M1 is most liquid and easiest for transaction, whereas M4 is the least of all. Question number 98. Consider the following with respect to fiscal deficit. In a country like India, fiscal policy plays a key role in the elevating the rate of capital formation both in the public and private sector. Through taxation, the fiscal policy help mobilize considerable amount of resource for financing its numerous projects. Fiscal policy also help in providing stimulus to elevate the saving rate. The fiscal policy gives adequate incentives to the private sector to expand their activities. Fiscal policy aim to minimize the imbalance in the dispersal of income and wealth. Question number 99. Consider the following statement with respect to debt to GDP ratio. Higher debt to GDP ratio have fueled economic crisis worldwide. The European debt crisis was a result of excessive debt piled up on government book which become unsustainable. For the same reason, it is often important to see the nature of government's deficit. If the government is borrowing more for creating capital asset or on subsidies, the other expenditure which does not result in the creation of any asset. The capital spending of the government, especially during the slowdown, helps in private investment. Question number 100. Consider the following with respect to value of Indian rupee and its significance. The value of a currency is not the real indicator of economic strength of the country. Though the value of Indian rupee with respect to the dollar was stronger in 1947, but the economic position of India in 2008 is much better than that of 1947. The stability in the value of Indian rupee is much more important than its exchange rate. High volatility in the exchange rate is not a good situation for the economy as it can trigger further fall in the Indian rupee.